We are in Book 6, the Book of Fate. This is an important stage in the development of the story. We've seen Savitri born, growing up, reaching maturity, her father sending her out to find her mate, and in the mountain, the foothills of the Himalayas, in the forest, far away from the city, there she has come across Shraddhavan. And we read the Book of Love, their meeting, their mutual recognition that they are destined for each other. And then Savitri returns to her father's palace to inform him that she's found the man of her dreams and they want to marry. And when she arrives at her father's palace, there, visiting as if by chance, is Narad, this semi-divine being, half-divine being, who is able to move freely between the celestial worlds and the earth, and who has the gift of seeing the past and the present and the future. So in this first canto of Book 6, the Book of Fate, we saw this exchange. Narad asks, who is this and where has she come from? It all gets explained. And she is asked to tell, and she mentions Shraddhavan. And then Narad is asked to give his blessing on the union. But there's some hesitation there. And eventually, at the insistence of the queen, he reveals that although Shraddhavan is a very, very wonderful being, in every way suitable to be the mate of Savitri, he is doomed to die in exactly 1 year's time. So then very naturally the queen tries to persuade her daughter that she has made a mistake and she must go and have another look. But she has Savitri steadfastly refuses. This is what we read last time. She says, I can't change my mind because I know now why my spirit came on earth and who I am and who he is I love. I have looked at him from my immortal self. I have seen God smile at me in Shraddhavan. I have seen the eternal in a human face. So then they all realize that there's no changing Savitri's mind. None could answer to her words. Silent they sat and looked into the eyes of fate. So this is a part of the legend. It belongs to the traditional legend. The next canto, which we'll start to read now, there's no trace of this in the original legend. Here, Sri Aurobindo has taken the opportunity to answer problems and questions that trouble all sensitive thinking human beings. He's going to speak about the way of fate and the problem of pain. So I'll read the first page and a few more lines, and we'll see how this question comes up. A silence sealed the irrevocable decree. the word of fate that fell from heavenly lips, fixing a doom no power could ever reverse unless heaven's will itself could change its course. Or so it seemed. Yet from the silence rose one voice that questioned changeless destiny, a will that strove against the immutable will. A mother's heart had heard the fateful speech that rang like a sanction to the call of death, and came like a chill close to life and hope. Yet hope sank down like an extinguished fire. She felt the leaden, inevitable hand invade the secrecy of her guarded soul, and smite with sudden pain its still content, and the empire of her hard-won quietude. Awhile she fell to the level of human mind, a field of mortal grief and nature's law. She shared, she bore the common lot of men, and felt what common hearts endure in time. Voicing earth's question to the inscrutable power, the Queen now turned to the still immobile seer. Assailed by the discontent in nature's depths, partner in the agony of dumb, driven things, and all the misery, all the ignorant cry. Passionate, like sorrow questioning heaven, she spoke, lending her speech to the surface soul on earth. She uttered the suffering in the world's dumb heart and man's revolt against his ignorant fate. O seer, in the earth's strange twi-natured life, by what pitiless adverse necessity, or what cold freak of a creator's will, by what random accident or governed chance that shaped a rule out of fortuitous steps, made destiny from an hour's emotion, came into the unreadable mystery of time, the direr mystery of grief and pain. Is it thy God who made this cruel law, or some disastrous power has marred his work, and he stands helpless to defend or save? So this is the question which Savitri's mother voices, and in the rest of the poem, and the rest of the canto, we shall see how Narad answers this question, which is the question of all our human hearts, no? In many different ways, from many different aspects. You'll begin, Suresh?
Silence sealed the irrevocable degree, the word of fate that fell from heavenly lips, fixing a doom no power could ever reverse, unless heaven's will itself could change its course.
Yeah. So this is continuing from the previous canto. When Savitri has spoken, nobody can reply anything. So he says, now this first line of the next canto, a silence sealed the irrevocable decree. A decree is something that a ruler gives, no? They say it will be like this. It is Savitri who has spoken, no? She says, I cannot change my mind, I cannot change my heart. So it seems as if all the consequences of those words of her must follow. It's something inevitable that has to be fulfilled. And this silence which follows her word is like a seal. The king puts his seal when he makes a decree, when he says it will be so. The old kings had special rings with their mark on, and then they would put that they would put the ring perhaps into soft coloured wax, and that mark would be there that the king has said this. Here it is Savitri who has spoken. The word of fate has fallen from her heavenly lips, and this seems to have fixed a doom, a disaster, the death of Shraddhavan, Savitri's own widowhood, as if no power could ever reverse, could ever turn back this course of events now, unless the will of heaven itself could change or be changed. And of course that is what Savitri is going to try and do, but perhaps she herself doesn't know that yet. No. Is it clear? Anybody wants to ask anything?
Can we take the seal as sealing? No.
Yes, that when we seal an envelope, nowadays we stick it down so it's easy for somebody to see if it's been opened. No, in the old days they didn't have that glue, and nowadays we have rubber stamps. No, we put it on the document after the correct person has signed to show that this is the thing. So it is something like that, that it's closing it, it's fixing it. And because nobody can answer anything, no, it means the thing is decided. Silence means consent, no? Everybody has to agree. They can't say anything against it. So in that way, that's the seal of approval, we can say. In this case, it's not approval, but it's acceptance. You'll read?
So it seemed, yet through the silence rose one voice that questioned changeless destiny, a wind that spoke against the immutable day.
So it seemed as if no power could ever reverse this decision that's been made. It felt like that. And still, some voice is rising from the silence rose one voice that questions, that asks, does it really have to be like this? And if so, why? No? A will, a human will that is struggling and fighting against that will that is immutable, that can't be changed. Something that's mutable is changing all the time. Our life here is mutable. But what is immutable is unchanging, fixed. So the will with a capital W, the will of fate or destiny or the divine, still often we don't want to accept those decisions. No? We human beings, we struggle and question. Bhavana.
And mother's heart heard the painful speech that ran like a sanction to the call of death and came like a chill close to life and hope.
Yes. A mother's heart, Savitri's mother. Her heart had heard this fateful speech that Savitri has spoken, and to her heart that speech, those words of Savitri seem like a sanction, saying yes to the call of death. And because it's like that, to her heart, it feels like it's the very end of life and hope for her mother. A chill close, cold, a cold end to life and hope. Alice, would you read?
Yet hope sank down like an extinguished fire. She felt the leaden, inevitable hand invade the secrecy of her guarded soul.
Next two lines.
And smite with sudden pain its still content, and the empire of her hard-won quietude.
Yes. So whatever hope there might have been, now it's like a fire going down, going out. Something has extinguished that fire of hope. They say that hope springs eternal in the human breast, no? But for her, this is the close of hope. That hope dies away like a fire that's had a lot of water poured on it. So the queen feels that hand leaden, it's heavy, and it seems to be inevitable, unavoidable, the hand of death, the heavy, dark, cold, unavoidable hand of death. She feels it coming in to the very center of her being, the secrecy of her guarded soul, because she has been trying to live a higher life, no? But now this hand of death seems to be passing all the protection that the soul gives. It brings with it this sudden pain. Smite, it means to give a sudden blow, strong blow. So it's a sudden blow of pain that disturbs that quiet, tranquil, peaceful happiness. Content is not ecstasy, it's not rapture, it's not bliss, but it's a kind of steady happiness. still, and it invades this quietude that she has won with difficulty. The human heart doesn't find it easy to maintain peace and equality. She has been practicing that, no? She's had this rule of quietude, of not getting upset and troubled and giving way to grief. But now it is too much for her. Alexei?
A while she fell to the level of human mind and filled with mortal grief and nature's law. She bore the common lot of men and felt for common hearts enduring time.
So for some time she falls away from that high, wise position that she's taken, that hard-won quietude. She falls down to the level of ordinary people who are not highly educated and cultured aristocrats, no? Just ordinary people and that level is a field, a terrain of mortal grief. That grief which is there somehow in everything that has to do with mortality and that is subject to the law of nature. So in this moment, this queen, this great aristocratic lady, is sharing the common lot of men, the fate that all human beings share. And she felt what common hearts, ordinary people, endure in time. This kind of grief and shock cannot affect anybody. No, this is our common lot. And it's as if she's a kind of representative. She's representing all of us ordinary people. Yeah. Mahalingam, you will read.
Voicing Yas's question with inscrutable power, the queen now turned to the still immobile seer. Assailed by the discontent in nature's depths, partnered in agony of dumb, graven things, and all the misery, all the ignorant cry, passionate in sorrow, questioning heaven, she spoke.
Yes. And she's speaking to Narad, the still immobile seer. He hasn't moved at all. No? Now she turns to him. She's feeling attacked. She's under attack by all the discontent, all the rebellion and revolt that is there in the depths of nature, in the lower levels of evolution. She becomes a partner. She shares in the agony, the terrible suffering of dumb, driven things. Several times in the poem, Sri Aurobindo shows this wonderful sympathy with the animals. You know, that they just have to follow. They have to accept whatever happens to them. They have no way to express their suffering. You know? And perhaps they suffer a great deal, but we human beings tend to disregard it because they can't express their suffering. But Sri Aurobindo knew all about that suffering, and in these few words he expresses it, you know, the agony of dumb, driven things. And all the misery, all the passionate cry, that's more on the human level, that we suffer misery and we cry out and protest and are unhappy. So, representing all that suffering that's in the world, she speaks passionate, like sorrow itself is passionate and intense. and she's questioning heaven, that allows all this to happen. Gumsun.
Then he must preach to the selfish soul on earth. She uttered the suffering in the world's dawn heart, and men's revolt against his ignorant faith.
Yes. So he says very clearly what she's doing here. No? She's speaking for, she's using her words to express the feelings of our surface soul, not our deep soul, which is always turned to the truth, but the surface soul that guides us in most of our life. She uttered, she gave expression to, she spoke out the suffering that's there in the very heart, in the core of this world, which can't speak itself, but she's giving expression to what it would say if it could speak. No? She's expressing that dumb heart of nature which can't express itself, and she's expressing the human revolt against his ignorant fate. Here we are. We also feel that we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the power to do things better. And how have we come into this situation? Is it fair that we have to suffer the way that things are? And there's something in us which revolts and says, no, this is not right, it should not be like this. How has it come about? She's giving expression to all these feelings. Okay, Joel, would you read?
O seer, in the earth's strange twine nature life, by what pitiless adverse necessity, or what cold freak of a creature's will, by what random accident or governed chance, that shaped a rule out of fortuitous steps, made destiny from an hour's emotion, came into the unreadable mystery of time, the direr mystery of grief and pain.
This is the first question. And she asks Narad because she thinks he's somebody who should know. No? She says, you're a seer, you see things, you see the past, the present, and the future. Tell us, how has this mystery of grief and pain, how has it come into the earth life? The earth's strange, twi-natured life. Twi, it's connected with twin. We live in a world of dualities. Whatever quality or whatever power is here, the opposite is also there. So that's the characteristic of our strange earth life, that everything is two-colored, twi-natured. How has this mystery of grief and pain come into the earth's life? Has it come about by a pitiless, adverse necessity? Did it have to be like that? Is there some power like that which is hostile to our earth life, which has no compassion, no pity? Is there really some need like that, some necessity that makes it that this can't be avoided? Or is it that there's a creator who has actually made things like this by some, by what? Freak by what perverted will, cold, pitiless, harsh, no? Or is it by a random accident? It's just by chance like that it's like this? Or perhaps not completely random, but a governed chance, a chance that is conditioned in some way or another, a chance that has shaped a rule out of fortuitous steps. Fortuitous means has happened by chance. So maybe in the beginning of history or the beginning of time, things happened just by chance in a certain way, and now this has become the law, the rule. Or is it perhaps something like karma, that in some past time, out of in an hour of emotion, we don't know what has happened, but that has shaped this destiny which is coming now. She says, how has this come into the unreadable mystery of time? Time is so mysterious to us. No? The more we think about time, the more mysterious it becomes. It's an unreadable mystery. But even more mysterious, or mysterious in a more terrible and painful way, a direr mystery of grief and pain. Why does this have to be? Actually, all of us in our hearts feel that it should not have to be. None of us really accepts that there should be pain and grief. So this is her question. Kailash, would you read?
Is it why God made this cruel law, or some disastrous power has marred his work, and he stands helpless to defend himself?
This is the way the question is very often put, no? God, supposed to be everything pure and good and powerful, no? Your God, she says to Narad. Narad is a worshipper of Vishnu, the protector, the maintainer. Is it your God who has made this cruel law? Or is it that he's not all-powerful at all? That there's some other power, some terrible power that is able to spoil, mar, it means to spoil his work. And he can't do anything about it. He can't help us or save us. Is it like that? We can't really believe that it can be like that, but sometimes perhaps it looks like that. No? So then in quite detail over the next many pages, yes, up to the end of page 442, she elaborates on the painfulness of earth life. Yes?
A fatal seed was sown in life's false start, when evil twined with good on earthly soil. Then first appeared the malady of mind, its pangs of thoughts, its quest for the aim of life.
Yes. So the explanation that she gives herself, she says, is that when life began, something has gone wrong. A fatal seed, a seed that brings death and destruction, was sown in that very beginning of life, which was not the way life should have been. It was a false start. Yeah? We use this expression in a race, perhaps. The person says, ready, set, go, but somebody has already started. So then they have to, it's a false start, they have to start again. No? Something has gone wrong. So in that fatal seed, this seed didn't have just one sprout, it had twin sprouts, evil twinned with good, when life was planted on the earth's soil. That's what, twins are, no? They are two beings who have sprouted from one seed. So, from that time when the fatal seed was planted, then first appeared the malady of mind. A malady is a disease and sickness. Thinking, the mind, that's perhaps what's wrong. That brings us this pain, this painfulness of thought. Because it doesn't just accept things the way they are, it is on a quest, it's always searching for the purpose, the meaning of life. She says maybe it's mind that has caused this problem. Lila.
It twisted into forms of good and ill, the frank simplicity of the animal's acts. It turned the straight path hewn by the body's gods, followed the zigzag of the uncertain course of life that wanders seeking for its aim, in the pale starlight falling from thought's skies. It guides the unsure idea, the wavering will.
Yes. So mind, twisted into these forms of good and evil. Here when he says ill, it's the opposite of good. This problem, she says, only comes up with mind. It is mind that distorts, twists the frank simplicity of the animal's acts. We don't think of animals doing things that are good or bad. They just do what they do, no? There's some frank, obvious, nothing hidden or twisted. It's just clear and obvious, the simplicity of the animal's acts. So for us human beings, mind has turned the straight path that was cut for us, hewn. We had this word hew, to cut. This has been hewn. This is the past form, hewn for us by the body's gods, the powers of the body. In a way, the body is like an animal. It has that same frank simplicity. It's only we who make it so complicated with our ideas. So when mind comes in, it follows the zigzag, the uncertain course. Life is wandering all the time. She says, seeking for its aim. It's looking for, why am I here? Why do I exist? And the only guide it has is, the only light it has is the pale starlight falling from thought's skies. If you had to find your way always only by starlight, it would be very difficult, wouldn't it? This is a physical fact if you have to follow by starlight, but it's also a psychological fact. The stars are symbols for the many truths that are very far away from us. They don't give us a bright light like our own star, the sun, that gives us more light and it gives us all the heat and energy that we need. But those pale stars, they are also great lights, but not much of their light reaches us. So life is guided by, its guides are the unsure idea, all the doubtful ideas that the ignorant mind gives, and then the wavering will. We may decide to do something, oh yes, that's the right thing for me to do. And we follow a particular line for some time, and then we think, no, I've made a mistake. It would have been much better if I'd done this and that. So our mind is not steadfast and steady and straight. It's wavering, like a candle flame in a breeze. Wavering. So the mind, the will, we are never sure what to decide and what to be doing. If we follow the ignorant mind and the life impulses. Nina.
Suppose the instincts say identity. Is the narrow point of being's inmost side, made the sure escapes of nature's simple world, and truth and freedom is the golden soul.
Yes, she says, in this way, through the intervention of mind, that we lost instinct. Instinct is what animals have. They know exactly what they have to do. And why do they know that? Because instinct, it has identity. It's connected by oneness with the arrow point of being's inmost sight. The deep, well, the sight of pure existence. It's like an arrow going straight to its aim. Instinct is like that. It just knows somehow. It's safe because it comes direct out of the being. And so these sure steps, there's no doubt in these steps of nature's simple walk. These steps get spoiled. Again, we have this word marred, spoiled. And truth and freedom in the growing soul. The soul, as it grows, it doesn't have its full insight and its full identity, but still it's always turned towards truth, and it would be free if it were not dominated by the body and the life and the mind, by the limitations of matter and the limitations of evolving life and mind. Martin.
Out of some ageless innocence and peace, privilege of souls not yet betrayed to birth, cast down to suffer on this hard, dangerous earth. Our life was born in pain, into the trial.
Yes. So we feel like this sometimes, no? That we have come here from some other higher state, no? Out of some ageless, unaging, beyond time, and innocence and peace. Our life has come down here. That ageless innocence and peace is the privilege of souls who have not yet had to be born on earth, betrayed to birth, she says, as if we have been tricked into being born on earth. They've not yet been cast down, thrown down to suffer on this hard, dangerous earth. So because of that, our life was born in pain and with a cry. The mothers have to suffer giving birth, and we don't believe that the baby's okay until it cries. There must be something wrong with a baby that doesn't cry when it's born into this world. So this is not Sri Aurobindo's view of why the souls are here in bodies, but it's a view that many human beings have felt through the ages that, oh, we fell down here. Either somebody threw us, or we did something wrong, or something went wrong. Otherwise, our souls would not be here suffering. And the thing that we want to do is to escape from being here and be in some, get back to that original innocence and peace that we somehow lost. Rosa. Although
earth, nature welcomes heaven's breath, inspiring matter which the will to live. 1,000 ills assail the mortals hours, and wear away the natural joy of life.
Yes. So there's something in earth nature which welcomes that divine breath, which wakes up the will to live in matter. But then here we are, we're alive in the material universe and a physical body, and then we find out how 1,000 ills, 1,000 diseases and pains and psychological griefs attack the hours, the short time that is given to beings who must die. And those 1,000 ills, all those things that go wrong, they wear away our natural joy of life. In children there's often a very natural joy of life, no? But as we get older, that gets worn away, rubbed away. I just read the rest of the sentence. Our bodies are an engine cunningly made, but for all its parts, as cunningly are planned, contrived ingeniously with demon skill, its apt, inevitable heritage of mortal danger and peculiar pain, its payment of the tax of time and fate, its way to suffer and its way to die. This is the ransom of our high estate, the sign and stamp of our humanity. So we have these amazingly complex bodies which seem to go on working automatically like an engine or a clockwork toy that has been wound up. It's all been very, very cleverly made. But for every one of the parts of this engine, every part of this body, just as cunningly has been planned something to make it go wrong. Now, with demon skill, this has been worked out. For every part of our body, its apt, suitable, and inevitable heritage. We've inherited this. Each part has its particular kind of mortal danger, the danger that can make it die, and its special kind of pain. You might experience this if some little part of your your body goes wrong, no? I've got a little twinge here at the moment. I did something wrong yesterday, and I was really noticing this morning, there's just a special way for that particular muscle to feel painful, and that's so for every part of the body has its own way of suffering. And she says, this is its payment of the tax of time and fate. It's as if just by coming into this world of time and destiny, we have to pay a tax to somebody or something. We can't help it. And every part of us has its way to suffer and its way to die. And this, he says, is the ransom, or she says, this is the price that we have to pay for being human, for this supposedly high estate. We're at the peak of evolution, the crown of nature, this high level we've achieved. This fact that we have to suffer like this, it's the sign, the stamp, the identifying mark of being human, of our humanity. So this is quite a complaint, isn't it, that Narad will have to answer.
A silence sealed the irrevocable decree. The word of fate that fell from heavenly lips, fixing a doom no power could ever reverse, unless heaven's will itself could change its course. Or so it seemed. Yet from the silence rose one voice that questioned changeless destiny, a will that strove against the immutable will. A mother's heart had heard the fateful speech that rang like a sanction to the call of death, and came like a chill close to life and hope. Yet hope sank down like an extinguished fire. She felt the leaden, inevitable hand invade the secrecy of her guarded soul, and smite with sudden pain its still content, and the empire of her hard-won quietude. Awhile she fell to the level of human mind, a field of mortal grief and nature's law. She shared, she bore the common lot of men, and felt what common hearts endure in time. Voicing earth's question to the inscrutable power, the queen now turned to the still immobile seer. Assailed by the discontent in nature's depths, partner in the agony of dumb, driven things, and all the misery, all the ignorant cry, passionate like sorrow questioning heaven, she spoke. Lending her speech to the surface soul on earth, she uttered the suffering in the world's dumb heart, and man's revolt against his ignorant fate. O seer, in the earth's strange twine-natured life, by what pitiless adverse necessity, or what cold freak of a Creator's will, by what random accident or governed chance that shaped a rule out of fortuitous steps, made destiny from an hour's emotion, came into the unreadable mystery of time, the direr mystery of grief and pain. Is it thy God who made this cruel law? Or some disastrous power has marred his work, and he stands helpless to defend or save? A fatal seed was sown in life's false start, when evil twinned with good on earthly soil. Then first appeared the malady of mind, its pang of thought, its quest for the aim of life. It twisted into forms of good and ill the frank simplicity of the animal's acts. It turned the straight path hewn by the body's gods, followed the zigzag of the uncertain course of life that wanders seeking for its aim in the pale starlight falling from thought's skies. Its guides the unsure idea, the wavering will. Lost was the instinct's safe identity with the arrow point of being's inmost sight. Marred the sure steps of nature's simple walk, and truth and freedom in the growing soul. Out of some ageless innocence and peace, privilege of souls not yet betrayed to birth, cast down to suffer on this hard, dangerous earth, our life was born in pain and with a cry. Although earth nature welcomes heaven's breath, inspiring matter with the will to live, 1,000 ills assail the mortal's hours and wear away the natural joy of life. Our bodies are an engine cunningly made, but for all its parts as cunningly are planned, contrived ingeniously with demon skill, its apt, inevitable heritage of mortal danger and peculiar pain, its payment of the tax of time and fate, its way to suffer and its way to die. This is the ransom of our high estate, the sign and stamp of our humanity.